So welcome to today's episode of The Shred Show. Now today I'm going to talk to you about something that's a very common question, and that's, does it matter when you eat for fat loss, muscle gain, or general overall health? So this is a very common question that people have, and one of the most common things we get generally is people don't understand how to, what to eat, when to eat, and how much. So what I'm really going to do at the moment is try and educate you to help you achieve the best results possible, depending on obviously what your goal is. Now, the answer is, does it matter when you eat? Obviously depends literally what you're trying to achieve. So we're going to break down into each supplemental segment in different aspects. So if we look at, for example, does it matter when I eat for fat loss? Let's look at the main driving force of what actually achieves fat loss. So when it comes to actually losing fat and losing body fat and losing weight overall, we know what achieves that. So in basic terms, it's going to be the law of thermodynamics. It's going to be consuming less calories on a daily basis than we're burning. Therefore, our body will then go to stored body fat, adipose tissue, to then basically fuel ourselves. And that is essentially fat loss 101. So that's really the basics. Now, if we take into context that reality of, does it matter what time we eat for fat loss? If we're in a calorie deficit, technically it doesn't really matter massively. Now, obviously, there's nuances to that and there's best practices. So I would obviously recommend that people don't fast all day. I wouldn't recommend that they eat carbohydrates at certain times, which we can obviously talk to you about a little bit. But as an overall context, does it matter for fat loss what time you eat or what you eat, as long as it's within your calories to make you in a calorie deficit and within your macros that you're supposed to be eating? In my opinion, it doesn't really make any difference. Now, number two, does it make any difference what time you eat for muscle gain? On that instance, I would say yes, it does make a big difference. Now, one of the big reasons for this is down to the effect exercise has on our body is absolutely enormous. So there's a huge response to this. Now, this is why with our clients, we use the metabolic priming approach we designed with our clients at CJ Coaching, where essentially we're looking to ramp up clients' metabolisms. Now, one of the things and one of the key factors that we have to look at here in terms of mechanics of the body is what's called non-insulin dependent glucose transport, which is basically a lot better after exercise, which basically means our body's ability to utilize carbohydrates is vastly improved after training. Now, if we think about that from a logical point of view, where would we then want to put our carbohydrates? After the workout. So that's point one. Now, if we think about also what are we looking to try and do when we're looking to build muscle mass and get jacked, we're looking to try and fuel performance in the gym to create an adaptive response from our workouts, to break down muscle tissue, to create a requirement for our body to build new muscle mass. Now, if we can increase our performance within the gym, we can use more weight, we can train for longer, we can have more time under tension, we can increase our intensity. Will we get better results in the gym? Yes. Will we build more muscle because we're performing better in the gym? Yes. Would we also probably lose more body fat? Yes, because you're going to have more muscle mass because your body's accruing more muscle mass, so your basal metabolic rate will also increase. Now, this is where you need to really break things down and use logic. And that's really the way we look to utilize carbohydrates for people to burn body fat and actually build muscle simultaneously. In particular, if you're particularly detrained or you've never really been to the gym before or you're not very consistent, you have the potential for exponential results when you apply these tactics correctly and you're consistent with them and meticulous. Now, when I say meticulous, what do I mean by that? One of the reasons people don't get the results they're after is because they're inconsistent. Now, we are what we repeatedly do. Now, you sticking to your diet Monday to Friday, Saturday going to town on Domino's Pizza is going to cause issues to any nutritional diet you do. There's no beating around the bush about that. One of the big myths that I talk about a lot that caused me issues and never actually really get into the shape that I wanted and living the life I want is because I used to believe in the whole cheat day bullshit. Now, the whole cheat day thing about it's a weekend, Saturday, Sunday, like you can do whatever you want, is the biggest lie out there. So please do not do that. And if you want to know more about some of the biggest lies out there, I've just created a free guide, which is 59 fitness myths, 59 easy tips for you to implement and mistakes not to make that I have made over the last 15, 16 years of my fitness career. There's a free copy of that below this video and podcast, so you can check that out. That's huge amounts of value, and will help you not to make the same mistakes I've made, and will help you to take next step forwards. But in terms of nutrition, it's very important to be aware of obviously what you're consuming and why you're consuming it, and looking at the overall macro perspective, not the micro. So yes, you might have stuck to your diet for 3 days of the week, and then the other 3 days you haven't, and then you're complaining because you're not getting results. So try and think about it from that perspective. Now, we've obviously covered in terms of fat loss and muscle mass, does it matter what time you eat? Now, when it comes to health, does it matter what time you eat? It's a bit of a taboo one. So there's a lot of benefits in terms of fasting, and I believe as human beings, the way we have evolved over time, we're not necessarily designed to eat every 2 to 3 hours, although for accruing optimal muscle mass, one would say that's probably the best way to do it, because we can stimulate muscle protein synthesis every 2 to 3 hours by digesting 20 grams of basically protein to stimulate that response. However, what I would suggest we do is you use a pinch of salt with everything. So these 3 things that we're talking about in terms of fat loss, muscle building and health, we want to try and create a synergistic approach between all of them, because you're going to be watching and listening to this thinking, well, yes, I want to lose body fat. Yes, I want to gain muscle mass. And also, I would like to be healthy and live a long time, because those are 3 things that I would very much like to do. And this is something you really need to think about, is it's not a one-size-fits-all approach in terms of you're going to go through different seasons of life. You're going to go through bulking phases, cutting phases, more stressful periods of life. And you're going to have to be evolving and adapting to the scenarios and the curveballs life throws to you. For example, if you're in a situation where you're undergoing a lot of stress and you're not really having time to work out, then maybe a higher fat, lower carbohydrate diet would be more preferential, because higher fat diets will aid cognitive function. You don't need huge amounts of carbohydrates if you're not working out. So that would be a very good way to optimize your nutrition based upon your scenario. So that's really the way I would look to try and break that down. Now, in terms of some simple rules in terms of when you're eating does it matter for health, fat loss or muscle gain, I would also look into the realm of digestion. So one of the things I'm not a fan of is I'm a fan of fasting for traveling, and I'm not a fan of things like the one OMAD diet, whatever it is, 1 meal a day. That is stupid. So say, for example, my calorie allowance, I can eat 2,500 calories. I could not eat all day. And then I could stroll down, I've just moved to Dubai, down to JBR, I could go down to Cheesecake Factory, and I could be like, line me up 2 of those cheesecakes, I'm going to go to town, and that could be my 2,500 calories for the day. Now, technically, I would have fasted all day, and I would hit my calories pretty much bang on. However, the quality of the nutrients I was taking would be absolute garbage, and also the huge amount of digestive stress from taking all the calories in one go would cause issues. Plus, if I was going to have cheesecake, the issues from that would come that I can't digest dairy very well, and also gluten. So don't just look at ticking one box when it comes to your nutrition, your body. You want to tick all the small boxes together. And that's what comes down to making the right choices, becoming informed and understanding how your body works, and becoming self-aware. Because when you become self-aware of how your body feels when you eat certain foods, is when you basically become superhuman, because then you actually understand how you can fine-tune this gift of the machine you were given. And this is my big skill, and the big skill we have coaches that work with me at CJ Coaching, is helping clients to identify where they're going wrong and then how they can fix it. But not necessarily even us just identifying it, it's the client identifying it for themselves. So you sitting there being like, okay, I'm not seeing progress. I'm training, I'm eating quote healthy well, but I'm not seeing progress. Okay, so what have I done? Well, I was making progress a few weeks ago, and now I'm not. So what's happened? Oh, I went out for dinner at the weekend. I had pizza. The weekend before I did the same thing. Oh, here's a common fact. This is, since I've started doing that, my progress has slowed. You have then identified the issue. And this is what pretty much all success in life comes down to, is identifying whatever the problem is, or whatever the bottleneck is that's holding you back from achieving results in fitness, business, family life, or just general or overall happiness. As soon as you identify what that issue is and you become self-aware of that, you can then control it and then find a solution for that problem. So that would be a big thing I would really suggest you focus on, and spend some time in self-development and becoming self-aware enough to admit that you will have things that you need to work on. When you talk about nutrient timing and when you eat, does it matter? It does matter, and it doesn't matter, obviously, as I said. In regards to fat loss, the primary goal is calories in, calories out, and calorie deficit. That being said, you can actually not gain weight if you're in a calorie surplus. So there's a couple of reasons, unlike body fat. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Why? One, obviously, if you're training very intensely, the additional calories, providing you're in like not ridiculous surplus, like 300 to 500 calories a day, can be put towards obviously gaining new muscle tissue. Second, extra energy and calories and carbohydrates can also be stored in muscles as glycogen. Now, obviously, these will make you heavier because muscles filled with glycogen will also pull in water, will make you fuller, your arms bigger, and you also weigh a bit more. However, that's not body fat. So this is one of the reasons people, when they do a ketogenic diet, are like, oh, I've lost all this weight, how wonderful. It's like, the first 4 days, you just deplete yourself of glycogen, drop some water, and you haven't lost any body fat. And you've not eaten any carbohydrates. And personally, I really like carbohydrates, so that would suck. And I don't know if you're listening to that and like you like carbohydrates and you would like never want to do a ketogenic diet again, because that's probably, if it was me, I don't want to never eat a carb again. So it's not really the best way to go, in my opinion. That's the big thing you want to think about, is if something's not sustainable, then it won't be attainable long term. So the big thing you want to think about is becoming self-aware, understanding that the foods you eat, firstly, in terms of quality, is the most important thing. When you eat them does matter, but within the realm of like some sense. You don't have to set an alarm clock to be like, it's 8:30, I need to eat. It's 9:30, I need to eat. Like if you eat a bit later some days, you eat a bit earlier some days, put some meals closer together, whatever. Go with the flow and chill. One of the biggest mistakes I see people making is they stress and they overthink about the nuances too much. As long as your overall calories are correct, your macronutrients correct, so your protein, carbs and fats. So in protein, you have 4 calories per gram, carbohydrates 4 calories per gram, fats 9 calories per gram. As long as you have those things set up, you have your macros are right, your overall calories are right, and you're choosing good quality food choices, you can digest, ingest, and your body can assimilate and utilize correctly. Keep yourself hydrated, make sure you're sleeping, keeping stress low. You've got a great workout program, you're actually training correctly, which I could do like about a 1 billion hour podcast on. And I actually had an awesome experience today. I had a guy, Michael, come up to me in the gym in Banus, who's from Germany, who's followed me, and he was like, and I was training with someone sort of teaching them, and he was like, it's so nice to see someone here who's actually training people properly and not just doing like beast mode, throwing weights around, being a fucking idiot. Because that's how firstly people get injured and also how people don't get results. But he also said it's nice to see someone with a big following who's actually teaching the correct way, in terms of we were training back, depressing scapula, and like actually training properly to gain maximal muscle mass in the most efficient way possible and not get injured, which is the aim of the game. Now, obviously I've digressed. So to summarize again, food timing does matter, but most importantly for you, I would suggest make sure calories correct, macronutrients correct, food quality choices, try and pick low processed foods that you can digest and assimilate easily, and then make sure that you tick the other box in terms of recovery. I hope this episode of the YouTube channel or podcast was helpful. If you'd like to see more content, make sure you smash the like, subscribe, leave a review on the podcast. And the 59 Fitness Myths guide is below for you to get a free copy of to help you on your fitness journey. And we'll catch up with you in the next episode.